Hello friends, welcome to Squaird Plans, where creative planning and organization comes to life. I'm Stephanie and today I'll be creating a summer bucket list, such a fun way to add a bit of DIY seasonal decor, so let's get to it. And I'll be using some watercolors from Arteza along with some brushes and this Arteza sheet of watercolor paper, my power punch tool from We Are Memory Keepers. I also printed off my summer bucket list freebie from last year and cut out some bucket list items. And finally, I'll be using this Atlantis sticker book. Okay, you guys, so I went ahead and grabbed out a sheet of paper from that watercolor paper pad. It's a nice thick pad of paper, so it's heavier, almost a little bit heavier than standard cardstock. And it is watercolor paper so that I can go ahead and use water on it and it should behave nicely with my watercolor paints. I drew a circle just with a pencil that I had and used one of my Pyrex bowls. This bowl I found is just the perfect size for putting into my classic happy planner in the use I'm going to do, so I always use that one. It's maybe like the 2-liter bowl. I'll have to double check that, but it's an extra large bowl and it's perfect for the sizing that I need for a circle in this capacity. So I went ahead and traced it, and then I am now adding in some watercolor using mainly the yellow to match up with the yellow background of the stickers I'm going to be using and blending those out into a teal color, kind of representing more of like a summery color scheme, ocean scheme, but more of a like summer, I don't know, just a blend that gives you some summer vibes is really all I was going for. And I was very impatient and didn't want to wait for the watercolor to dry. So I put my wax paper down because I was going to try to put down some stickers and then just picked up all the paint and messed things up. So I went back and kind of smoothed things out once again. I am going to lay it down on top of it, still wet, but that process of kind of picking up a lot of the excess helped it not get too messed up going forward. So like I said, I'm going to be using this Atlantis Sea Life book that I picked up on Amazon not too long ago. It is full of large decor stickers here in like an ocean theme, which I really like. The downside of these stickers is that they all have some kind of colored background depending on the pages that you're pulling from. So that's why I used the watercolor to help blend out that yellow from the background into more of a like aqua sea green tone. So I'm going to start pulling out those stickers that match up with the theme, specifically with that yellow background. So there's usually multiple pages in this book with similar color backgrounds, so I'm just going to only pull from those pages. And I am going to also try to do a bit of a gradient around the circle I've made using the stickers. I'm going to be pulling different colors out and kind of combining them in a gradient way just to add a little bit of something extra here to this sea life wreath, if you will, or circle that I'll be making. If you watch any of my bucket lists from the past, I started doing this kind of circular insert into my monthly spread last year, and I really loved how it turned out. It was just, actually I think started it 2 years ago, but anyway, I really love how it turned out. Started out with like a fall wreath, and then I've done some variations for each of the seasonal themes as they come up, and just it's like perfect the way that it fits into my planner, which you can see at the end. But I love that it keeps it front and center in my peripheral so that it kind of encourages me to do the summer bucket list items that I'm going to put on this, as well as add some visual interest and decor to my monthly, even though those are usually decorated. Just adds a little something extra to the spread and is really fun to look at. Specifically because it's there in my monthly, I check it every day. So again, it encourages me to complete those tasks regularly and helps me just add that little bit of spice to life that sometimes is missing from our lives. As you can see, I've got a pretty good gradient going around. Just looking for one more item to bridge the gap here between the greens and the teals. I think this coral will work. We'll just fit it in, and that should do it. And okay, so let's go ahead and get this onto the watercolor paper. I totally forgot to use some washi tape or some masking tape to help keep the page flat. I don't do a ton of watercolor, but I know that that's a good technique. So if you are doing this, that is a good recommendation if you want your page to be fully flat right from the get-go, to tape it down while you're doing the watercolor portion until it dries. It did end up being pretty easy to flatten out later, but as I was doing this and it was still slightly, not wet, but a little bit damp, the stickers didn't want to stick as well. And then also too was a lot of bubbling, as you can kind of see on the page, but it does flatten out once everything dries out. So I did move over all the stickers, most of them by hand. I did try to roll it off, but again, because the page was still a little bit damp, it really didn't want the stickers to adhere to the page. So moving it over by hand was the best way. I've already went ahead and used my guillotine cutter to quickly just cut this circle in half. That will be so that I can put it into the middle of my spread up against the spine. Now I'm going to fussy cut around these stickers just to make it a little bit more interesting, more of like a die cut look. And it should also look a little more wreath-like as well. Once I lay it into my planner, you'll see the two halves together as kind of one big element. So I'm just using my scissors for this. It's a pretty simple process. The stickers already have a border around them, so I don't have to be too careful with the cuts. And again, because I blended out those stickers into the watercolor, it all looks pretty seamless when we're done. Like I said, the page was a little bit damp, and I think because of that, the stickers just weren't sticking as well to the paper. It also could be because the watercolor paper is coated. So I just went back through and added a little bit of permanent adhesive using my Tombow glue runner to help make sure that those stickers kind of stayed stuck down and didn't shift around or lift up. And now I'm going back through on the other side and doing that same process of fussy cutting the edges. I'm smoothing out a few of the sticker edges as well. Some of the borders of the stickers are pretty detailed, lots of small cuts. So I did have the ability to kind of smooth out some of the outlines of the stickers while I was cutting, which was nice. And you really can't tell in the end that I did any cutting of the sticker itself. One thing I will end up doing after the fact here too is to make sure that the very top and the very bottom of my circle wreath here doesn't hit my discs. So you'll see as I punch this that I'm going to prepare it to go into the center of my planner. So I'm just going to use the side there just to get an idea of where to place that first hole, that centering hole. But because it is nestled in between discs, you can see how the top and the bottom of the wreath may end up hitting the top and bottom discs. So you want to make sure that you are smart with your design and can either trim it down before you put it in your planner, or you can, plan ahead and make sure that it doesn't cross a certain line so you're not bumping those discs without being able to really add another hole because there's not enough to the insert. And so you can see here I'm doing a little bit of trim out there on the top and the bottom where I saw it might be cutting it close, just to give myself a little bit more leeway there, and then cleaning up any edges that I saw. I went ahead and did the disc power punch for this. This is a fairly heavy weight watercolor paper, so like I said, heavier than cardstock. It's really not going to work in like a standard happy planner punch if that's what you have. It may work in like an arc punch or a Levenger punch, but you're also going to get a lot shorter stems on your punches. So that means that it has more of a chance of falling out of your planner because of those wider mushroom heads and those shorter stems. Just something to keep in mind. It will probably move smoother in your planner, but because of that, it may be even a little bit loose. So I really do prefer the disc power punch over other types of punches because of that, because of the size and the shape of that mushroom head. And I'm already starting to pencil in the title here that's going to go on the front. I decided to do a summer bucket list, and I'm going to stream it across the two halves. So just trying to pencil it in first, making sure everything looks good before I move forward, which is always a good thing for me to do. And I decided just to stick with a standard black brush pen for most of the writing. I'm using a Tombow dual tip brush pen here. And I'll go ahead and try to brush in the middle word, which is bucket. Did a little bit of a sloppy job, so I will try to clean it up later. But you'll see that it's a little bit more difficult here on top of the watercolor. I did pencil in the words ahead of time, but when I erased, one thing I was finding is that the eraser was picking up some of the watercolor, and so you'll see it kind of whites out a bit behind anywhere where I erased. That's fine. I mean, the way that I designed the style of this, it blends well enough because it's, like I said, more of a blended out look, but just something to keep in mind that my eraser did pick that up. So try to be extra careful with your pencil marks and any other kind of mistakes you make, because there's not a lot of leeway for making changes, especially if you're using a water brush pen like I ended up using, which maybe wasn't the smartest idea in the end. So, okay, we've already turned them over and we're moving on to the back now. And I'm going to go ahead and just trim out the bucket list items that I'm going to use for this time around. I created this freebie, I think last year, for my summer bucket list. And so I will link it again down below so you can grab. It's just a full sheet of different summer bucket list items that you can easily print on label paper or even on regular paper and glue down if that's what you decide. I just had cut this down last year, and so these were the ones I ended up not using last year, and I picked out ones I thought would work for my current life situation, and I'm just going to drop those in now. Some of them are pretty simple, like reading a book. Those are like, kind of give-me's. There's some of the ones that I know that I would really never do without this bucket list, like make lemonade. I'm like imagining making lemonade from scratch because I never drink juice or anything like that. It's usually just water or coffee. So yeah, that's a little bit out of my norm. Having a picnic, dragging my husband to a picnic. I can just imagine how this is going to go, but we're going to give it a shot. It helps him get out of his comfort zone. And also a lot of times ends up being fun, even though he may be resistant at the beginning, which I may be too. We'll see. Us introverts, it's hard to do new things. So I've dropped those all in, and I wanted to add a little space for adding in what date I completed the task. as well as like a check off, which I just went ahead and did a little kind of open bullet circle for the check off using that same Tombow brush pen. And then I'm going through with the watercolor now, kind of again recreating that gradient down the page from yellow to teal. Once I complete it, that's where I'll write in the date. Go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup because, like I said, I kind of just spaced that the Tombow brush pen was a water pen, thinking that that would not smear after I touched it with more water. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I think we are all set and ready to go. I really love how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also, too, go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch. And think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Bye.